This is the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Do you have questions about an upcoming exterior contracting project? We've got answers. Welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Hey, welcome to the You Ask, the Pros Answer podcast. Your questions answered by the pros you trust. My name is Cole. I'm one of the hosts on the show, and today I have with me my co-host, Aaron Rogers. Aaron, how are you?
I am wonderful, Cole. How are you?
I am doing pretty well. We are pre-recording this, so I am either really excited because the Ravens won last Sunday, or I am wearing my Ravens hat and shirt just because I'm a fan and baseball season hasn't started yet.
Sports.
Aaron, why did the foundation break up with the wall?
Ooh.
They had too many structural differences.
Oh, good God.
What do you call a lazy kangaroo builder?
I don't know.
A pouch potato. I tried to explain to my kids. Yeah, I tried to explain to my kids what concrete is. They just couldn't grasp it. Listener, I think it was episode 1, season 1. We talked about why a contractor wanted to start a podcast. And one of the things that we talked about was because it's hard to really tell with the internet and with AI, it's hard to get information you can trust on topics. And all of those jokes that I just shared came from an AI source. And so if you needed any proof or evidence that AI is not quite ready to take over the world, hopefully I just provided some to you.
Well, and we just talked about the guy in Bethany right now that I think he stole over $400,000. He's wanted on. They're looking for his home improvement fraud. It was crazy. And you look at the picture and the guy's smiling in his mugshot, and like he seemed educated. But I guess So you look at a guy like that who's taken $40,000 deposits from people, and they're expecting whatever the work is. Yeah. So it's hard to find. It's hard to find somebody you can trust at a new contractor, especially in the state of Delaware. It's so easy to become a contractor. We talked about that in a previous episode, where $100 and 15 minutes of your time, you get a temporary business license, and you can be in business by the end of the day. So
and you can do that again and again and again.
Yep.
And so
change the name, change your hair color, whatever it takes.
Yep.
So.
Well, if you're still with us after those terrible jokes, congratulations. Maybe you're using the timestamps. Do not go back and watch maybe the last 90 seconds or so. Last week, we did kind of a step-by-step, how do you replace an asphalt shingle roof? It was really meant for a homeowner's perspective. We weren't hoping to train a new roofing crew with that episode necessarily. It's more like, hey, what really goes into replacing my roof? Well, we wanted to do the same kind of thing today. We're in the middle of a pretty cold and icy and snowy winter.
Yeah.
Siding, especially vinyl siding, we've talked about before, is brittle. Vinyl will expand and contract. And so I would guess that come this spring, many of us will be researching, like, when is it time to replace my siding? How do I replace my siding? Who can do it for me? So anyway, today, Aaron, I'm going to ask you this question, and then with the time we have left, I'm hoping to learn some stuff about how to replace siding. So, Aaron, how do you replace vinyl siding?
So if you've ever watched DIY or HGTV, you hire a contractor, you wait 30 minutes, and then you come home to your siding completely redone.
Are you telling me that's not the case? I've been on a big fixer-upper binge.
Yeah.
Lately, I've been rewatching shows. Man, that is such a good show.
They're good.
Chip Gaines cracks me up. Yeah. So you're telling me that's not a 30-minute thing?
It's definitely not quite as realistic. Yeah.
You told me last week that most of our roofing projects take one day. So can I expect it to be done in a day?
No.
Okay. Bummer.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's tease the audience. Don't share how long it's going to take just yet. Let's wait till the end.
Okay.
What's the first step? So walk me through that.
First step is going to be just like roofing. You're going to do your walk around. You're going to put all your protection in place. Move stuff away from the house. Fully survey every single wall. You know, with siding, there's a lot of typically going to be more penetration. So there's going to be outlets, hose bibs, condensate lines, phone lines, the electrical panel. You could have an irrigation system. You could have dryer vents. You could have your range hood vent. You could have soffit vents. You can have, exterior door lights, exterior security lights. Nowadays, we deal with a lot of security cameras, ring cameras, wise cameras, all those kind of things. So one of the first things you're going to do as the crew, this has already been documented by the sales guy, but the first thing you want to do as the crew and as the project manager is to walk around the house, and you're going to locate all of those things before you start ripping anything off. You're going to locate all of those things. You're going to walk around the property. You're going to look at all the existing conditions. You're going to move, lights. You're going to move furniture, barbecue grills, whatever you have. You're going to move all those things away from the property. The next thing is landscaping. With roofing, you can somewhat manage the material that's coming off the roof. You could try to avoid landscaping being damaged. It's a little bit different with siding because you physically have guys walking around the property. In order to remove siding, you're going to be, standing in the first 2 or 3 feet from the wall. So any landscaping that's in there typically is going to be affected. If you've got a lot of flower beds and stuff like that, it takes a few minutes and a lot of prep work to kind of protect a lot of those things. So it's a lot of preparation that goes into protecting the surrounding areas and documenting all of those things. So after that, then you're going to be looking at beginning demolition. So, removing of the existing downspouts, the existing gutters, whether or not they're being salvaged or not, those have to be labeled and placed off to the side and protected for future reinstall. And then you're going to be removing the fascia, the soffit, all of the window trim, all of the existing siding, until you've basically got it prepped all the way down to the existing house wrap, if there's house wrap.
Real quick, how do you, are there any specialty tools that are used in the demo process, or is it
not so much? It's pretty much a hammer and a wonder bar, or a pry bar, or whatever you call it. Everybody's got a different name for it. Wonder bar is what I was. Yeah, a wunderbar is what we always called it when I was a wee lad. So wonder bar is what I always called it. The guys up north may call it a pry bar. The guys down south may call it a willy bar. It's odd. Some of the places, we've got our main guy, Mike, here. Everybody pretty much knows who Mike is. He's from Delco, which I don't know if you know that it's a small province within the state of Pennsylvania. They pretty much have their own separate language for almost everything. They have an accent and a name for everything. He uses the word use a lot, which I never understood when you're talking to one person and you say use. I never understood where the S came from. But anyway, I digress. So a lot of people call it a lot of different things. But yeah, pretty much a hammer and a wonder bar is pretty much your simple hand tools is what you're going to use. There's not really any pneumatic tools or any sort of power tools that you're going to use for this. It's kind of selective. When you're tearing a roof off, it's roof and shovels and it's down and dirty and you're trying to do it as quickly as you possibly can. Most of the time when you're tearing off siding material, you're talking about like with vinyl siding or with hardy, most of those materials are going to be long pieces. Vinyl siding is typically 12'6". So you're tearing off one piece at a time, and then you've got to take that piece and throw it off to the side. And so it's a little bit different of a process. It's much slower, obviously, much more calculated because the material you're removing is slightly more awkward in size.
Yeah.
So a little bit more calculated. But yeah, so once you've got it down to the house wrap, we pretty much always remove the house wrap. A lot like when we do roofing, we pretty much only do roofing when we're going to replace all the flashing. We want to see what your roof or what your sheathing looks like underneath that existing house wrap. We have done a lot of projects over the years where the house wrap has hidden some absolutely horrific conditions. We had a house that was cedar siding in Dewey Beach. that we did probably about 4 or 5 years ago. We took off the existing wood siding. We could see that there was some issues, but the whole house was wrapped in Typar, which Typar and Tarvac are pretty much the two largest brand names in the industry as far as house wrap goes. The entire house was covered in Typar. As soon as that Typar came off, every single piece of sheathing on the entire house. This was a 3-story tall beach house. Every single piece of sheathing on that house was rotten. Essentially, the moisture had been getting behind it, and it was trapped because of the type of house wrap that was on there and the type of siding that was on there. Every piece of sheathing had to be replaced. Half of the framing on one of the walls was compromised. Almost every corner had compromised framing. So it is imperative that you get, every time you do a home remodeling project, you want to get down to your substrate. If you're doing flooring, if it's in a kitchen or a bathroom, take the original flooring off. You want to get down and make sure you've got no leak issues. You'd be surprised how many times people have done projects and you cover up some pretty awful conditions. So take off the existing house wrap, do your inspection just like you would a roof, where you're going to go around, you're going to look at every penetration. You want to make sure that, especially anytime somebody has to drill through the existing sheathing to put a pipe through, to put a wire through, if that isn't kind of filled with spray foam, or it doesn't have like a gasket or something around it, now's the time to do that. So we'll go ahead and, we'll spray foam any sort of penetrations for not only air infiltration, but also for pests, bugs, and mice. Mice don't really need a dime size hole, nickel size hole to get into your home. They can crawl up behind your vinyl siding very, very easily. It's actually probably nice and warm behind there for them. So it's like a vacation. So then you're going to go around, you're going to inspect all your sheathing, inspect all your penetrations, fill holes, replace sheathing as needed. Because sheathing on siding is on a vertical wall, you can have leaks behind siding for years and years and years and never actually see any sort of signs of moisture on the inside or outside of your house. So quite often we run into situations where older homes, we take off the siding, and right at the corners of windows where water has kind of gotten along the trim side of the window and kind of run behind the siding, we run into that situation a lot where we have rotten framing and rotten sheathing below windowsills. So, so you're going to do all that. And then your next step will be to use house wrap. So now you're going to house wrap the entire property. House wrap, the style of house wrap you use, the type of house wrap you use, is very much dictated by the type of siding you're going to use. Tyvek and Typar, like I said, the two largest name brand products on the market, pretty much nationwide. They're good for vinyl siding. They're not great for hardy or cedar or some of the other products. They don't have, it's a great technical term for those of you who don't know. You have surfactants, which is like this chemical that kind of comes out of some of the products that we use, and some house wraps are not surfactant resistant. We use a product called Block It. It's made by a very large corporation called Kimberly-Clark. The house wrap that we use, not only does it breathe, but it also is surfactant resistant. So we can use that house wrap pretty much behind any product. But again, it doesn't really matter what product you're using. The installation, like everything, the installation is the most crucial part. So it is code required that all seams get taped, that your overlaps are a minimum of 6 inches. And then the penetration areas, those are super, super crucial. Windows and doors, the way that we have to flash them with like the kind of name brand flashing tapes that come with the house wrap that you're using, how you flash around your windows and doors to kind of make sure that they're not going to leak over the long term. That's the area that we see companies screw up the most. At the top of your windows and doors, you're required to kind of cut your house wrap, flap it up. You're going to put your flashing on there, your window tape, and then you're going to layer it back down. You want that constant flow of water and moisture behind there where everything kind of laps over each other from the bottom up. And you'll see a lot of companies that basically will put the house wrap on there. They'll cut it around the windows and doors, and then they just lap their house flashing tape right over top. And at the top of the window, they'll just secure it right to the flashing. The problem is like any sort of conditions. Let's say you have sawdust. Let's say it's any sort of dust. If it's moist outside, if you put that that flashing tape on there, and it doesn't 100% seal to the house wrap itself, if any moisture gets behind there, it's getting into that window. So we see brand new construction homes that's the piece that I think is the most vulnerable. The flashing details, like when you see any of the major new construction builders that are going up and you see the windows and doors get installed before the house wrap, that ain't right. There's no way to properly flash those things if you're doing the windows first and then you're doing the house wrap. It's not right. Not even remotely right. So, yeah, we see those fail almost every single roof or every single home that we do that has, that was a new construction build by one of the major builders. We pretty much have rot around every single window and door, almost guaranteed. So, yeah.
We are in the home and garden genre on most of the podcasting platforms, but this is turning into a bit of a horror show for me as a homeowner who lives in a brand new neighborhood by a large builder. And
my bad.
No, it's fine. I drive through our neighborhood every day and I see these houses going up and I see how fast they are built.
Yeah.
And I think my house was built that same way.
Yeah.
And we'll see. I'm thankful for warranties.
It's very difficult to build a brand new, say, 2,000 square foot house in 45 days. Just for anybody listening, 45 days is not a realistic timeline to build a house from start to scratch. So
it seems like it's pretty easy for these guys.
Yep.
I think you mean it's not easy to build
properly.
Properly. Okay. Let's move on. So the house wrap, the flashing tape.
Yep.
What's next?
So next you're going to start, now you're going to basically install your finished products. So you've got your house wrap on, you've got all your flashing details done properly. You're going to go around and you're going to install blocks behind all of your penetration. So your lights, your outlets, all of that stuff, all of those things get specialty blocks, regardless of the type of siding you're going to be installing. So they all get specific blocks for the products to either mount to, or they get, new dryer vents, what have you. And then you're going to start with your soffit. Your entire home is going to have soffit put on there. If you have a ceiling or a front porch, it'll get soffit put in there as well. And then you'll do your fascia. And then after your fascia is all done, you'll start with your kind of trims. So your siding trim is going to be your inside corners, your outside corners, your trim around your windows and doors, depending on, again, what type of product you're going to do. And then the actual finished siding project or siding product. So depending on the type of product, this could be a super easy install, or this could be kind of a more strenuous, long, kind of enduring, detailed oriented process. Vinyl siding tends to be a little bit faster, simply because the product is light, meaning the actual 12-foot 6 panel doesn't weigh all that much. It only weighs a handful of pounds per piece. You're nailing it not tight. You're nailing it so the actual board can kind of expand and contract. You can cut it with just a pair of tin snips. Same way with all the trim pieces that go along with it. We install everything into a corner or a J channel that has, a pocket on it. So you're allowing for expansion and contraction, as well as it allows for you not to be as precise with your measurements.
Yeah.
Other products have to be cut, within 1/8 of an inch to allow for expansion and contraction, and then that gets caulked. So things like hardy, things like cedar, much more detailed process. You're not really worried about your cut pieces being kind of exposed with vinyl siding. With hardy siding, pretty much everything you cut is exposed. Same way with cedar, same way with pretty much any of the higher end products. Everything you cut is going to be an exposed cut. So you have to be precise. You have to be very exact when you do those measurements. So after all of that stuff, you're going to be, doing your cleanup, putting all your vents, putting all your lights, putting all your furniture and everything back in place. So we talked about with roofing. You asked how long does a typical roof take? We said an average shingle roof is going to be a day. Almost every company out there is going to shoot for that 1 day mark. Siding's a little bit different. It's a little bit longer of a process. I think it's an easier process than roofing is because it's not so dirty. It's not so physically demanding. You're not on an angled surface all day long. So depending on the size of your home, obviously, and the product you're installing, most siding projects for vinyl siding are done within 1 week. If you have a little bit bigger of a house, it can extend into week 2. If you've got a normal sized home and you're doing something like cedar or hardy, that could be a 2-week project. Okay. We've done some pretty large custom homes that are, say, hardy with PVC trim and a lot of walls, a lot of cuts. That I think the longest one we've ever done was 5 weeks. And it wasn't fun. 5 weeks is a very long time to be on one project. So yeah.
Well, thank you for walking through that. Yep. One question that I had that I didn't want to interrupt your flow of things, but I wanted to go back to real quick before we wrap things up is when a homeowner meets with one of our sales guys and signs a contract, how do they account for the potential for, like, speaking about that house where you said every sheet of plywood or sheathing was rotted?
Yeah.
Is there a certain amount that's budgeted in to that contract for replacing sheathing, or is it the kind of thing where you go back to the homeowner and say, listen, it's much worse than what we anticipated? How do I budget as a homeowner for that?
So you as the homeowner, I don't think anybody can ever budget for the house I was talking about in Dewey.
Okay.
We're fortunate that particular homeowner was able to take it in stride, and they had an idea that it might be worse than we expected. Most of the time, we're going to account for a handful of sheets. Okay. We usually spell that out specifically in the contract. There's a line item in there that talks about inspection and replacement of sheathing if it comes to it, how much it is per sheet. And then usually we'll have that in there. We'll say, X amount of sheets are already included. It really goes down to, what type of siding is on there currently. Are the windows original? Are they older? If you've got a 60-year-old home, chances are we're going to have a couple of sheets we're going to have to replace no matter what we do. Okay. We find a lot of previous repairs on older homes, like a door that was covered up or taken away, or a window that was removed over the years. So we find a lot of that stuff, and we have to replace sheathing to make sure it's proper. But if you've got, if we're looking at a beach home that's, say, 20 to 25 years old, it's the original siding. They've had some issues. They're looking to basically do windows and siding and maybe some other stuff while we're there. You could pretty much guarantee a good amount of sheathing. Again, nobody ever forecast for the entire house. But, a good sized beach house, if it's a 3-story beach house, we may include 6 to 8 sheets, sometimes 10 sheets. If it's wood siding and I have access to see what type of house wrap is underneath that wood siding prior to actually ripping it open, I may include more. Okay. Again, there's certain kind of recipes for disaster. Tyvek and Typar, if it's the standard, 30 years ago, we only had the 1 or 2 options for Typar, and Tyvek is pretty much, it was this brand and this brand. They had one version of each. If it's that and wood siding, I guarantee you we have a good amount of sheathing. I may include 12 or 15 sheets in situations like that. So,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. It's good information to have. If you're watching this and you're thinking that this project is on your horizon, feel free to give us a call or check us out online. One of our sales guys would love to come out and walk the property with you and walk the process with you. All right, Aaron, thanks again.
Thank you, Cole.
All right, that is all that we have for you today on the You Ask the Pros Answer podcast. Hey, thank you for all of you who are helping to get the word out about the show. Would you please continue to do so? If you have not yet rated the show on Apple Podcasts, just go hit that 5-star button. Tell the world why you love the show. Also, you can follow us on social media, Facebook and Instagram, or you can simply tell a friend. Before we go, we want to hear from you. If you have any questions about an upcoming home project, would you send them to info@askproexteriors.com and simply put "you ask" in the subject line. If you are facing an upcoming home project, we hope this episode has empowered you to tackle it with confidence. Remember, knowledge is power, and a little bit of research can go a long way. Until next time, happy homeowning. The You Ask the Pros Answer podcast is produced in-house by the Pro Exteriors team. Pro Exteriors is the exterior contracting division of Empire Construction Group, LLC. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal advice. For more answers to your questions, please subscribe to this channel and podcast so you'll never miss an episode. Do you have an upcoming home remodeling project? Find more answers to your questions at askproexteriors.com.